Hello, everybody, and welcome back. And I hope you're all doing well. And in today's episode, we're actually going to be answering a question or a couple of questions which I got on one of my YouTube videos. And it was in the comment section, and this person had asked quite a few questions, and I just thought it would be a lot easier to put this in a quick episode so that anybody else with these same questions or thoughts can hear them as well. So I'm not going to hang around. We're going to get straight into the questions because there were 3 or 4 questions in there, and we'll just get into them, and I will just tell you exactly my answers to what this person has asked. And the first question that she asked was, do I have a van to transport the dogs? Now, most people would assume that for a professional dog walker, they would actually use a van. I actually use a Honda CR-V, and it's a 4-wheel drive. It's quite spacious. It's an SUV. And we opted for a 4-wheel drive because where we live, weather can get a little bit crappy at times. And it was just easier, and it was nicer for us to have the option of a 4-wheel drive, especially for when I use my dogs as well. I mean, to be honest with you, we didn't need a big van to take the dogs because I don't really take any more than 6. 6 if they're well behaved. Majority of the time it will be 5 dogs, so I didn't need lots of space. And we don't actually travel that far. Like, we don't ever travel down like motorways, or we don't travel far. I think our sort of area is sort of 5 to 10 minutes maximum, travel time. So we're always dotting around the local area. So we don't actually travel that far. So I didn't really opt for a van for that reason. And plus I like having the 4-wheel drive capability when the weather gets a little bit dicey. We're just better for us. And we like to do a lot of camping and go off with the kids and our dogs and things like that. And a 4-wheel drive for where we go was just a better suited option. So what we have in the back of our Honda is that it's actually fitted with crates in the back, and these are from Bajo Cages, and they're absolutely spot on. Like the crates, the back of the crates which go towards the seat is all guarded. There's partitions in there, and the doors can be locked shut if you get a lock on them, but they have latches to keep them shut, and that is what is in the back. For the seats, we actually use harnesses and hammocks, and we keep the dogs strapped in there safely. And like I say, we're not actually travelling that far for the majority of the time. So the way that I do things is the dogs that tend to go in the hammocks, in their own little sections and stuff, they will typically, majority of the time, get picked up last. But it can all depend. But no, to answer the question, no, we do not use a van to transport the dogs, although this is the preferred option for quite a few people. We actually opted, like I say, for the 4-wheel drive. We have the back fitted out with crates, and then we have hammock and a harness for the dogs that go on the seats in the back. And that is all we use, and it's worked well for us for the past 3 to 4 years. We've never had any issues. We've always been able to get places, and it's just far more reliable, in my opinion, than most vans. It's an absolute workhorse. But yeah, so that's what we actually use for dog walking. That's pretty much it. The next question that this person asked was, how did I get the clients to agree to group walks? Well, to be honest with you, I do not offer solo walks anymore. I used to. And it was up to the client to decide. When they got in touch with me, it was up to them to sort of ask if they wanted their dogs to, because some people want their dogs to go in groups. They want them to go into the group dog walks. They want them to be with other dogs and get that stimulation of running around with other dogs in a controlled environment. That is what a lot of people wanted. And plus, group walks typically came at a little bit of a cheaper price because you will do more dogs at once, so you can charge a little bit less and make it more affordable for the client. Some people wanted solo walks because they knew the dog was a little bit of a handful. It could be a little bit funny with the other dogs at times, and it needed a bit more of a closer eye. So people were happy to put their dogs into solo walks. So it was never like I ever forced a client or anything like that to go, you must go into group walks, you must do this is what's happening. To be honest with you, that most people want their dogs to go into group walks because it's cheaper for them, and they do get the stimulation of playing and chasing around with other dogs. So I've never had to do anything in the way of getting them to agree. That is what they wanted. They wanted the dogs to go in group walks. Some of them wanted to go into solo, so it was just the way it is. Most people just wanted it. I've never had anybody say, I want specifically solo. If they do want solo, then they'll typically go with a different walker to accommodate that for them. There was another question in between these, but I'm actually going to tie the last question in to the question that's just been asked, just because it makes more sense to do it that way. So they asked, even though the business is different, would you still charge a lesser price if they agreed to group walks as opposed to individual walks? Now, yeah, you would always charge more for a solo walk than you would for a group walk. That's just sort of the way it is. You shouldn't expect anybody to pay the same amount for a group walk as they would for a solo walk, because in a solo walk, that dog is getting 100% of your attention. You can go to different places with that dog. It's a 1-to-1 session, which should cost more than a 1-to-5 session. It was like if we were doing personal training. I used to be a PT back in the day, and if we were doing personal training, because I couldn't give each client 100% of the attention the entire time, if we did like a group session or group classes or group training, you would obviously charge a smaller price for that, because they're not getting 100% of your attention. Whereas if I was to take a client on and do 1-to-1 sessions, it would be very niched. It would be very solely focused on that person. And the dog walks are exactly the same. So if we were to take an individual walk on for an individual dog, that walk could easily be more tailored to that dog. Like, that dog might have a specific place that it likes to go. It might to do certain things. You could, while you're doing solo walks, you could do a little bit of training. You could get it to sit and stay. You could get it to recall a little bit better. You could do sort of bits of training to help with the stimulation of that dog and keep it working, which you can't really do with group dogs, because not all the group dogs are always going to have the same temperament. So like I say, it can be a little bit niche. There might be a specific place, like you could go hiking up to certain places and keep this dog on a 10-meter line. You could go hiking places, which you couldn't really do with sort of like five to six dogs. It would just be a far more difficult task. So you should always charge more for a more niched down experience, for a 1-to-1 experience. That should always come at a higher cost. And not only that, from a business point of view, it is a lot harder to make money just doing solo walks. Now, you can make money doing solo walks, but you need to charge appropriately, because it has to be worth your time, because you can't make as much. So if you're doing a solo walk, it needs to be worth your time, which means you need to charge a little bit more, because obviously if you're doing solo walks and you took 5 dogs out at £10, that's £50 for that walk. Even if it takes you an hour to do the walk and a half an hour each side, which is 2-hour time, that equates to like £25 an hour, even for like the 5 dogs. But that's because you've got the travel time at each side. Whereas when you're doing solo walks, you only have the one drop off, and it still needs to be worth your time. So if you were charging sort of £10 for that, for the one dog, you should really be charging no less than like £18 for a solo dog walk, really, because it's got to be worth your time. Because you can make more doing group dog walks, which is why you can charge less, because you take multiple dogs at a time. It bumps up that hourly rate, that price that you're going to get out of it. It's a lot harder to make profits doing solo dog walking, which is why it should come at a higher price, because it's got to be worth your time. You've got to make it viable, and you've got to make it worthwhile. So yeah, I would always charge more for a solo dog walk than you would for a group dog walk. And the only exception to this that I personally think where you wouldn't need to go by this rule is if that you was just doing solo dog walking. Say if you actually didn't need the money because you weren't making it you weren't making it like a business that you're going to rely on. You've already got money there, you've retired, and you just want to take out one dog at a time just for companion while you're on a walk. You don't need to charge an extortionate price for solo dog walking, because you don't really need it as a reliable source of income. You're just doing this sort of to like, say, for the companionship on the walk as a hobby. You do not rely on that money. So you can sort of charge whatever you want. You can charge whatever you want for the solo dog walks. But if you was running a business that you are going to rely on for a full-time wage, and you're going to offer multiple levels of dog walking, to make it viable and worth your while, you should always offer more for like I said before, for the solo dog walking, for the individual dog, as it's a more niched down experience. But that is exactly what I would do. And the last question that they have was, what is the interview process like? Now, I'm assuming what they mean is like what the consultation process is for onboarding a new dog and taking on a client. And this is going to vary from person to person, area to area, and business to business, obviously, because not everything is always going to be the same, and you might pick up along the way things that you like to do and things that you don't like to do. So to answer your question, the interview process for me is fairly strict, purely because we go off into the moors, and my aim is to get the dogs off lead in the moors into certain areas. So I have quite a strict process with how I like to do things. So originally, if people get in contact with me and they want me to walk their dog, I will always say, right, we need to do a meet and greet. We need to do a quick meet up, ideally in the moors, because I want to be able to see whether or not this person is having me on or not. Because some people, this is no offense to anyone at all, some people's level of what they assume their dog is at training wise is nowhere near the level that I would expect a dog to be at. So I say, right, let's do a meet and greet. I would like to do like a quick sort of 15-20 minutes in the moors. I want to see what they're like, because over a message or over the phone they'll tell me, oh yeah, they walk nicely on heel, the recall's pretty good, they'll get on well with other dogs, they're not reactive and things like this. And then you can get them out on a thing and this dog will be absolutely scrambling on lead. Its recall will be gone, it'll be gone chasing a pheasant, it'll be like sayonara. Somebody will come past with a dog, this dog could freak out, and it's kind of like, if you just took this dog on solely based on what they told you, you'd be in for a lot of surprises. But over time, as you get more experience at this, you'll be able to quite easily sort of figure out what's what and if this person's being genuine with what they are saying. And then you can sort of like learn to make the allowances. Like some people have said to me, oh yeah, the recall's really good, they walk nice on heel and things like this. But then when we get up there, they'll say, oh, well, we've never been up in the moors before. You've got to account for the fact that this is a new place, new stimulus, new people, new smells, new everything. And the dog is probably going to lose its mind, which is something that I have found quite often in my experience. So anyway, we'll go back. I'll say, right, let's do a meet and greet. We'll go meet up on the moors in like a neutral place or a field somewhere where we can have a look, and I'll meet them. Hi, how are you doing? Obviously, just tell me every single thing about the dog. I want to know absolutely everything. Let's see how it walks on heels. Let's see what its recall like, how it engages with me, what its temperament is like, what it's going to be like with other dogs, and things like this. There's all sorts of things that you're going to want to ask, but you want to know absolutely everything. And this is your best indicator and time to see whether or not the dog's going to be right for group walks or not. So often, depending on what they've told me, I will either take one of my dogs or I will not take one of my dogs, depending on what they are like. But again, it's all situational. It's all dependent on what they're like. So once we've done the group walk, like I say, all we're going to do is do a quick loop somewhere, nothing too intense. We're just going to do a quick walk. I want to be able to see if that dog's got the ability to focus on anything. Like if it can focus on the owners, if it recalls well, if it heels okay, if it sees another dog, does it bolt off? If it hears a pheasant, does it see us perk up? Does it bolt off? Is it going to put its nose to the ground and go off scenting deer? There's all sorts of things. I need to know that this dog's going to be acceptable to take up into the moors with other dogs. So once we've done that, I'll say, right, I said, well, if you're happy to, we will go back to the house. We'll do a quick chat there just so I can see where its collar is, where its lead is, where its harness is. You can show me how we're going to operate keys and all these sorts of things. So then we will go back to the house. We'll do a quick few minutes in the house. Nothing special. It's basically so that the dog has seen me in the house and it's not a completely new thing. If that was it and I never saw him again, and then all of a sudden I walk into a house and come to claim the dog could lose its mind. So it's nice to get in there after a bit of a walk when it's got its energy out, and you can just sort of kneel down and have a bit of a fuss with the dog. And then from there, I will ask all the other questions and explain everything. Like, I want to know, where does the dog want to be kept when we get back? Is it okay just to get put in the house? Does it want crating? Does it have a specific place? Is there anywhere it's not allowed to go? Is there anywhere all these sorts of questions. Where does its leads go? Where does its collars go? I mean, for the most part in leads, I use my own leads. I'll explain to the client that I just use my own leads unless specifically requested otherwise. Unless they say, I want you to use this collar, this lead all times, then that's that. But for the majority of the time, 99% of the time, I use my own leads. I will also explain to them that, we do go up in the moors, there is rivers, there is streams, there is bogs. Now, while I try my best to clean these dogs down and dry them off before they ever enter the house, I'll make it very, 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 very clear that because of the way we go, it can near enough be impossible to have these dogs in pristine condition when we get back. I make that clear to them, and they must say, that's absolutely fine, just put them here. That is where I want them. So for me, the interview process comes in two parts. We do a part where we are outside, where we can focus on the dog and its temperament and see what it's like. And then the second part comes to the house, where it can meet me in the house and we can ask all these general questions. For me, the interview process is fairly relaxed. It's not too intense. I just need to see what this dog's like and whether or not what they're telling me is true or not. Whether or not I think this dog's going to be a little bit of a handful, if it's going to get overstimulated really easy. Basically, it's just a time for you to get a good grasp on this dog's temperament, what it's going to be like, and also it's a great time for you to explain everything that's going to happen and what to expect, and then the clients have got chance to tell you what they expect and how it's all going to work, like where the key's going to be, where this is going to be, where that's going to be. That's basically it. You're basically just asking a series of questions, and you will refine this down over time to what is most important to that specific dog. Like sometimes it's fairly hard to tell, what they're sort of gauging because they're not giving you a lot of information, and then sometimes it'll be super easy. Sometimes we'll go on a walk, this dog will walk to heel, it'll be super friendly, it'll be bouncing up at me. It's great. We get back to the house, I say where its leads and its collars and stuff like that. The dog's super chilled out, and basically this client, I'll obviously explain, might not always be clean when we get back. Is there anywhere specific that you want these guys put in? And they'll just say, yeah, no, I don't care. We didn't get dogs if my house were going to be pristine all the time. Just let them in. Righty-ho, that's absolutely fine. So once we've asked all these questions, which some of the questions are obviously going to be in your contract where you discuss, pricing and all these other things, that's basically it. And then you basically just say to the client at the end of it all, right, if you're happy to go ahead, drop me a message with your email address, and then I will give you, or take the contracts with you if you're still using paper contracts. I use a Google form for them to sign. I'll say just drop me an email drop me a message with your email address in it. I will ping you over the contract. You get that signed. You just tell me from there sort of what days and times and things that you were looking for. A quick note on the days and times though, clients will always want sort of like dinner time, lunchtime walks. You've got to explain to them that can't always be accommodated if you have regular dogs taking them slots. You can sort of say, well, I've got a 9 or a 1 slot, I've got the 9 or the 11 slot, or whatever times you guys do walks. Obviously, I don't know what times you guys might be thinking of for your walks. But you should always sort of say, I don't have that time on this day, but I have this time on that day. This is what your consultation and your interview process is for. It's there to iron out all these things to whether or not you can actually accommodate for this dog. But yeah, that's pretty much it. My mind went a blank there and I went a little bit silent, but they are the questions that came from this comment. All great questions, and I thought it would just be nice to put these all together in a quick podcast episode so everybody else can hear them as well, like I said before, if they had the same thought. So yeah, I hope you did find this helpful in some way, and that's going to wrap up this episode for today, guys. Pretty straightforward, great questions as always. Like I say at the end of every episode, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and I will obviously make more podcast episodes explaining all these things for you guys. So yeah, that is it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe, like, all that good stuff. It really does help out a small channel like this one. And yeah, that's it for this one. I will catch you guys in the next one.